And we are live. Alright, everyone, welcome back to my channel, Baseball Talk with Nick Morgan. Today, we are going into another episode of Who is Better for our player comparison series. In left field for both the New York Yankees and New York Mets, we have Clint Frazier and Dominic Smith, respectively. Now, before we dive in full-fledged, I do want to say Dom Smith might not necessarily be the starting left fielder for the Mets. However, I think he's the most valuable player in this position. Especially with a healthy Pete Alonso, Smith will not most likely be getting a lot of at-bats over at first base and a lot of playing time in the infield. With that being said, I do think he brings a lot to the table for the Mets organization, and they would benefit from him starting in left field. He could play both positions, so it's not like this is just out of the blue, me throwing him in here to add him to the series. He is a left fielder, according to Baseball Reference, MLB.com. We've seen him take over that position before throughout his Major League Baseball career. So though he isn't necessarily primarily a first baseman per se, he is definitely a guy who can see playing time out there in the outfield for the New York Mets. So we got Clint Frazier for the New York Yankees, Dominic Smith for the New York Mets. These are our left fielders that we are comparing in this episode of Who is Better player comparisons. We've been doing one of these a day for the past few days leading up to opening day. Of course, we are going to end the series a few days before, but then I have some cool stuff planned on the channel for you guys content-wise, so stay tuned for that. Clint Frazier, Dominic Smith are starting left fielders here in New York baseball going into the 2021 season. Let's go ahead and learn more about both of these players. Now, Frazier is 26 years old and was a former first-round draft pick back in the 5th overall of the 2013 draft. He was selected by the Cleveland Indians, traded to the New York Yankees alongside Gio Urshela, who was in our last episode of Who is Better. Now, Frazier made his MLB debut with the New York Yankees back on July 1st of 2017, and he is finally getting an opportunity here in 2021 to be the starting left fielder. Now, by starting left fielder, I don't mean after a few strings of injuries. Clint Frazier should be starting in left field on the opening day game, which for him should mean quite a bit because he does finally deserve this spot. He has matured quite a bit over the course of his career. He really started to flourish a little bit towards the end of 2019, the shortened 2020 season. He was really doing better both defensively and at the plate. His glove jumped. His numbers in the outfield, and just by the eye test, he looked dramatically better and a lot more comfortable in the outfield playing the positions. That's a good sign. Brett Gardner is back. Usually he takes that left field role, but we might see him more of a bench guy or a utility for the corner outfield spots. Clint Frazier, the starting left fielder for the New York Yankees. The glove is getting a little bit better. The bat was heating up in 2020. A lot to look forward to for Frazier. Now, if we look at Dominic Smith, his New York Mets counterpart, Smith is 25 years old and also in the 2013 draft was selected in the first round. He was the 11th overall selection. This is actually really cool, something I did not know prior to this video. I was doing up all the research and saw this stat. I thought that was pretty cool. Frazier and Smith were both selected in the first round of 2015. Frazier was taken 5th. Smith was taken 11th. Pretty cool. Both actually also made their Major League Baseball debuts in 2017. Clint July 1st, Dominic Smith August 11th. So just about a 1 month difference when it comes to Major League Baseball service time. Selected in the same draft, the same round, just a few picks apart. And as we mentioned a little bit earlier, Dominic Smith can play first base and left field. I think he is going to be a very useful player all around for the New York Mets. If he's a starting left fielder, now he's not necessarily the best defensively, but neither is Clint Frazier, which I think makes this an even better comparison. And now we're going to go ahead and start to dive into the numbers. So now that you know about Clint Frazier, Dominic Smith, let's take a look at their 2018 to 2019 stats. Now, usually what we do here is we take either 2017 to 2019, 2018 or 2019, or we just isolate that 2019 season and compare to see, the 2019 stats and a little bit before sometimes, and then individually the 2020 season, and we'll end things off with the Baseball Reference projections for both of these players to really figure out who the best starting left fielder is in New York baseball. Now, in the 2018 to 2019 span, Clint Frazier played in 84 games with 259 at-bats, 69 hits, and a 266 batting average. Now, if you see the graphics on screen, if a number is italicized and underlined, that means the player leads in that particular category. So for average through 84 games, you got to remember 2018, 2019, he was not getting a lot of playing time, even with some injuries here and there. Frazier was not thought of to be high up in the depth for the New York Yankees outfielders. Brett Gardner was in there quite a bit. We used Talkman, Judge, Hicks when he was healthy and everything. A lot of different moving pieces in the outfield. The Yankees are used to having depth for those three positions on the roster. Clint Frazier, finally, again, though, as we mentioned earlier, will be getting that starting time here in 2021. So 266 average in 84 games. Out of those four categories, he only leads in batting average. We go to Dom Smith, a lot more playing time from 2018 to 2019, 145 games, 320 at-bats, 82 hits, more at-bats. However, a lower average at 256. So Dom Smith takes 3 of the 4 categories, and now we're going to go ahead and move on to runs and extra base hits. Clint Frazier scored 9 less times throughout these 2 years than Dominic Smith, 40 to 49, for the Yankees and Mets left fielders, respectively. And Frazier also had a few less doubles. It was 17 for Clint, 21 for Dom in 18 and 19. Triples. Now, this is not a huge category here. We only see a 1 3-base hit difference, and that was for Dominic Smith in his favor. He had 1 triple, and Clint Frazier had 0 from 18 to 19. Home runs, yet again, another category separated by a very small margin. Clint Frazier had 12, Dominic Smith 16. Both of these guys have really started to find their swing, though. They're hitting for more power in 2020. They should be hitting for power in 2021 as well. Also, you got to remember, 145 games for Dom Smith in 2 years, 84 games for Clint Frazier in 2 years. They weren't getting a whole lot of playing time, or at least consistent playing time for that matter. So runs, doubles, triples, home runs, all goes to Dominic Smith. You can see it's very single-sided here, lopsided when it comes to the stats and who is better throughout the course of 18 and 19. Diving into stolen bases, walks, strikeouts, and not to forget RBIs, Clint Frazier, for the second category that he wins in this era, he had 39 ribbies compared to Dom Smith's 36. They both tied at 1 stolen base, and Dominic came away with 2 more walks, 23 to 21. At the strikeout category, if we're looking at this stat here, Clint Frazier struck out 83 times compared to Dominic Smith's 91. So Clint Frazier will go ahead and get his 4th category, 3rd all to himself. And now we move on to some of the percentages. On base, slugging, OPS, and OPS plus. It's back and forth right here. So Clint Frazier leads in on base, 28 on base. Dominic Smith, 312. Smith also had a 478 batting average, or slugging rather, not batting average, a 478 slugging percentage out of the two. It is going to lead. Clint Frazier did not lose by much, a 471 slugging in these 2 years. Then we go to OPS, so we're going to jump back to the Yankees win column. A 799 OPS for Clint, 790 for Dom. Again, he is not going to go ahead and lead by all that much. .009 separates these two OPSs. Now, we look at OPS plus. If you're unfamiliar, essentially, when an OPS plus is above 100, that means they are above league average. And if your OPS is below 100, you are a below hitter when it comes to that OPS category. Clint Frazier put up a 110 OPS plus in 18 and 19. He was 10% better than the rest of the league, so not super high. That doesn't necessarily mean he was great when it comes to on-base plus slugging, but he was still above average. And Dominic Smith, pretty much the same thing here, a 112 OPS plus for Dominic. He is 12% better than the National League hitters. Keep going at it. A lot is going to happen for you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. A lot's going to also happen for these two players, though. 2021 looks to be up for both Clint Frazier and Dominic Smith. If we're comparing who is the best left fielder in New York throughout 2018 and 2019, that title goes to Dom Smith. Now, technically, I don't know off the top of my head how much playing time he got in left field in 2018 and 2019, but for 2021, he's going to most likely see a lot of playing time over there in the outfield with Pete Alonso healthy and some other pieces that can be played in the infield. Dominic Smith's going to be used, I would hope at least, because I think he does portray a valuable asset for this Mets organization. So again, just a quick recap, in 2018 and 2019, Dominic Smith put up the better numbers, and look at 2020. So the 60-game of last year, Clint Frazier and Dominic Smith, see what's up with them, how well they did. Now we're going to see, again, more playing time out of the Mets defender, right? He is going to have 50 games out of the 60-game schedule, 177 at-bats, 56 hits, and a very high 316 batting average. Now, very high, I mean, of course, DJ LeMahieu hit in the high 360s. He led the league in batting average and the entire sport in batting average for that. An average above 300, well above 300. Very solid numbers right here. He's going to lead in the games, at-bats, hits, and average categories. Again, batting 316 with 56 hits and 177 at-bats. Clint Frazier, in last season, the 60-game schedule, abbreviated year because of COVID-19, he only played in about 2/3 of the games. 39 games played, 131 at-bats, 35 hits, and a 267 batting average. All of those numbers, Dominic Smith's production. So Smith is going to go ahead with these first categories. He's going to sweep, and it's going to continue right here. Runs, doubles, triples, home runs, and RBIs all go to Dominic Smith as well. It was a 3-run difference between these guys. 24 for Clint for Dominic Smith. He gets the upper hand there. Not even close. The New York Mets and hitter blew Frazier at doubles to 6 last season. 1 triple for each of that, and then 10 home runs over Clint's 8. He's going to go ahead and take that category yet again. So Dominic Smith consistently showing that he is going to be the better hitter, at least in the times that we are talking about right now. RBIs, it's almost double for Dominic Smith, so a lot more production, a lot more efficiency from the New York Mets. 26 ribbies for Clint Frazier, 42 for Dominic Smith. We move on now to stolen bases, walks, and strikeouts. And finally, Clint Frazier goes ahead and wins some categories straight up. 3 stolen bases. It was 3-0. He takes that, without any difficulties. Then walks, 25 walks to 14. So less games, less at-bats, but Clint Frazier was able to get on base more via ball 4. He struck out 1 less time in 46 less at-bats. So it's honestly a pretty good rate right there for Clint Frazier. Dom Smith was swinging and missing a little bit more, or going down looking a little bit more often. So Frazier goes ahead and gets those 3 categories. That's going to be the last success that he sees in the 2020 season when we're comparing these guys and their offensive metrics, though. We look to on base, Clint Frazier does get at 394. Dominic Smith hit a 377 on base percentage. But then the last 3 all go yet again to Dominic. A 616 slugging, 993 OPS, and we're seeing that OPS plus category come right back. A 169 OPS. Smith was 69% better than the rest of the league. Now, Clint, 49% better last season, a 905 OPS, 511 slugging. Still good numbers that he put up. For the sake of comparing, it is not quite enough to go ahead and beat out Dominic Smith, his New York counterpart, going into the season when it comes to left fielders. It's pretty easy, not a huge jump to conclusions right here, but Dominic Smith was the better left fielder, or at least the better player out of these two in the 2020 season as well. We saw it in 2018 and 2019, and now he's going to double down and be the better in 2020. Now, what's next? Of course, 2021 projections for both Clint Frazier and Dominic Smith. I do think both of these guys have high ceilings, a great potential, and we can see some extravagant numbers out of these guys, at least compared to what they are used to in this upcoming season. So let's go ahead, take a look at the 2021 projections. If you're new to the series or unfamiliar with how we get these projected numbers, Baseball Reference is the way to go. If you love diving into stats, learning about players they perform on the field, Baseball Reference is the place to go for you. It has virtually everything, offensive and defensive stats. A lot of fun. I can get lost in that website. I'm a huge stat head. As you could tell, I mean, we've been running this series for quite some time now, the past week or so, and it's nothing but stats. So we're looking at it, 2021 projections. Every year, Baseball Reference will go ahead and they will provide projected numbers based off of career averages, recent trends, and just algorithms that are in the system. They'll go ahead and put out a stat line for what they think each player will do at the end of the season. So for all Major League Baseball players, anyone you can think of, there is a Baseball Reference projection for them, assuming they already have MLB playing time. I believe that's how that works. So we're going to take a look at Clint Frazier and Dominic Smith, their Baseball Reference projections. Now, you see at the very top, the percent reliability is actually a very big factor when it comes to these numbers. 61% reliability for Clint Frazier essentially means that Baseball Reference is 61% confident in the stats they are publishing for Clint Frazier. So whether that's just because of inconsistent playing time or not a lot of MLB experience, whatever the case may be, the website was not able to generate what they believe to be a very accurate portrayal of Clint Frazier's projected 2021 season. 61% reliability, of course, the closer you get to 100, the more accurate they're supposed to be. Now, we looked at Dominic Smith, though. His reliability rate was only 65%, so Baseball Reference isn't too confident for either of these guys. The highest number I think we've seen is 86, 87% so far within the series. But nonetheless, we're going to go ahead and dive into these statistics, all of these categories, and really determine who is the... Take a look at at-bats, hits, and average first, like we've done in the past, not just this episode, but before. 385 at-bats for Clint Frazier. They're projecting him to have 99 hits and a .257 batting average. Now, personally, 385 games, that's going to put him right around, I want to say, 130 games, 385 at-bats. Assume you're getting 3 per game, something like that, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. So 130 games, he is getting a decent amount of playing time right there. If that is going to go ahead and be the case, which I would love to see if Clint Frazier is the starting left fielder like he's supposed to be throughout the entire performance and the entire duration of the season, I believe he's going to be capable of doing some great things, not just offensively, but with the glove as well. Again, he's really showing those signs of maturity. He's getting better at handling himself. He's a little bit older. He's talking to the press more. And he's just playing better baseball, which is huge. A .257 batting average might be a little bit low for Clint Frazier, but again, got to take into account the 61% reliability rate. These aren't necessarily going to be super accurate. Then we look at Dom Smith, who, for the third time here in the episode, is going to lead in at-bats, hits, and then, of course, we do get him with batting average 438 ABs, 119 at-bats. Nope. 438 ABs, 119 hits, and a projected .272 batting average for Dominic Smith. He leads in all 3 of those categories yet again. I believe the only time Clint Frazier led in batting average was 2018 and 2019. So we're seeing a lot more consistent production out of Dominic Smith. He is year after year going to be better in a lot of these categories. And we go down the list, you look on the graphics, he leads in everything from at-bats to RBIs. 68 runs, 32 doubles, 2 triples, 22 home runs, and 71 runs batted in. For the New York Yankees left fielder, 61 projected runs on 20 doubles, 1 triple, 19 home runs, and 62 RBIs. Now, runs scored and triples, I don't necessarily take into account when we're comparing these players. Even doubles, of course, that is going to help out with the slugging and the on base and everything, but you can't call out a certain player and say, well, they have more triples, so they are the better player. Without a doubt, that's not really a thing that happens in Major League Baseball. You have to look beyond those particular categories. I primarily include them just because, like me, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there watching that enjoy these statistics and learning about all these guys. So though they might not matter much for the sake of the series, they are still numbers that were provided by both of these guys over the course, or that will be provided over the course of the 2021 season. So the runs, 7 less for Clint Frazier. Again, I could really care less there. Doubles is huge, though. Dominic Smith has shown that he does get a lot of extra base hits, a lot more than Clint Frazier, but Clint can run a little bit, so if he drives one into the gap, he will be able to get 2 bases out of it. They're only projecting him to have 1 triple. Dominic Smith, 2. Might be a stretch, might not be. It doesn't really matter. I mean, triples, again, don't mean all too much for the sake of the video. We then look at home runs, and it's very close. Now, both of these guys have their fair share of power at bats and opportunities. They can both muscle one out of any given ballpark in any given game, right? Dominic Smith does have a little more pop in his bat, at least according to the 2021 projections for this year. 22 projected home runs, Clint Frazier 19. I think for both of these guys, those are numbers that either fan base will gladly accept. 20 home runs just about for Clint Frazier. Again, both of these guys may exceed these numbers with only a 61 and 65% reliability rate, but if they are fairly close to being accurate, nearly 20 home runs for Clint Frazier, I would be happy with as a Yankees fan. And for the same thing with Dominic Smith, 22 home runs as the guy who can root for the Mets, I think that is definitely very doable. And honestly, not bad at all, especially when neither of these guys are your big power hitters on the team, especially when you have Pete Alonso's and Aaron Judge's within the roster. Now we look to runs batted in, 62 and 71 for the Yankees and Mets respectively. Nothing huge right there. I mean, by numbers, they're just not going to lead the league. They're not going to lead the team. It's a 9 runs batted in difference, and it may change. I mean, I'm not really loving the numbers that are being provided right now from Baseball Reference. I think they are a little bit low, and that does make sense because the reliability rate is also low, which makes it a little bit harder to compare these guys, especially in an episode like this. But 62 RBIs, 71 RBIs. If they're accurate, Dominic Smith will go ahead and lead in all of the first few major categories. We now look yet again. Clint Frazier will lead stolen bases by a total of 2, 5-3, and he will also lead in walks 46-40. That's a 6 walk difference. They actually, fun fact, are projected to tie in strikeouts. I love seeing those when Baseball Reference projects ties for given categories. I think we saw it yesterday with slugging or OPS at some point. Gio Urshela and JD Davis are a few episodes back. And now we see both are projected 117 strikeouts. I mean, not only does Clint Frazier lead this particular category, but you look, he also has significantly less at-bats. So him tying Dominic Smith in the strikeouts statistic might mean that if, Clint Frazier was to have 438 at-bats, he would have a bit more than 117 strikeouts, in which case he would not lead out of the two. But because it is nearly impossible to kind of have these guys both with the same games played in at-bats, especially in projections, when there's injuries to take into account, the first 162-game season since 2019, it may be a little rough. Nonetheless, Clint Frazier and Dom Smith are going to tie strikeouts for now. Then we get into the percentages on base, slugging, and OPS. Clint Frazier, by .003, leads in on-base percentage, 345 to 342. He is not leading in slugging or OPS, 462 and 807 respectively, compared to Dom Smith's 505 and 846. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. From 2018 to 2021 projected stats, Dominic Smith is supposed to be better at the plate. Personally, I don't think we've seen the peak of Clint Frazier just yet. 26 years old. He's finally getting that starting role that he deserves and he's been waiting for all this time. The New York Yankees are giving him this important opportunity, and I think he's going to go ahead and take advantage of it. At least I hope so as a Yankees fan. Now, with that being said, I also do believe Frazier is going to outperform his projections. Dominic Smith, I think these are all good numbers. He also might blow by some of these stats. If you're going ahead and picking, what we're doing here in the series, who is the better left fielder? Defensively, you might have a little more insurance with Clint Frazier out there, but with the 2021 projections, if we're singling this result based off of Baseball Reference's projections, you would go with Dominic Smith, right? But I personally think Clint Frazier will get more playing time than 385 at-bats. I think he'll have a higher average, more home runs, more RBIs. I would love to say Clint Frazier in this case. I think he is going to be a very talented player, and there is not a lot of pressure on him, nor Dom Smith for that matter, but there's not a whole ton of pressure on these guys where they have to be the best performers on the team. For the New York Yankees, when everyone's healthy, so many guys are in front of Clint Frazier when it comes to production and expected production. I mean, you're looking at Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, DJ LeMahieu, Luke Voigt, Gary Sanchez, Gleyber Torres, Gio Urshela, Aaron Hicks. Like, yes, Frazier will probably outplay some of these guys, at least in game stretches, but you are not relying on Clint Frazier to go ahead and bat cleanup, hit 300 every year with 30-plus home runs. That's not your guy. Neither for Dominic Smith. So with the pressure off of them, and I think these low projections, they will have much better seasons than Baseball Reference is giving them. I really want to say Clint Frazier here. Statistically, basing it all off the numbers, Dominic Smith, technically, yes, is the better left fielder in New York baseball going into 2021. But just going off of my gut feeling, what I think is going to be the overall outcome, and kind of looking at defense a little bit here, I would go with Clint Frazier. So the numbers say Dom Smith, I'm saying Clint Frazier, but let me tell you, I love both of these guys. I'm a huge fan and advocate for pretty much all New York baseball players. I love both of these guys. Dominic Smith, Clint Frazier, love what they're doing for the team. I'm loving that they're getting more opportunities and experience now. So that's going to go ahead and end it for this episode of Who is Better Player Comparisons. Clint Frazier, Dominic Smith out in left field for us. If we're looking at the numbers, yes, Dominic Smith is technically your better left fielder. However, I believe the best left fielder in New York baseball is going to go ahead and be Clint Frazier. I think he's going to outperform a lot of expectations. His maturity is really going to show. The Yankees are going to use him a lot as he's going to be the starting left fielder. We don't know where Dominic Smith is going to start come the 2021 season. Yes, we assume left field. Is he an everyday left fielder, or is he going to be left field half the time and half the time at first base? There's no universal DH anymore, so Pete Alonso would either be sitting or out. So many different questions. I think Clint Frazier gets a little more consistent playing time and just produces more on both sides of the ball. I would go Clint Frazier. The number suggests Dominic Smith. You guys decide and let me know down below in the comment section who you think the best left fielder in New York is for the 2021 season. But guys, that's going to end it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to drop a like down below, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Again, let me know down below in the chat who you guys think the best New York left fielder is. And don't forget to have your post notifications turned on for the next time we go live and do an episode just like this one. Thank you all so much for watching, guys. I'll see you all next time. Peace.